I recording?
It's recording.
I can't wait for you to edit this so you can see all my fucked upness. Sirens wasn't always Sirens, and it didn't start off as that. The collection actually was going to be called Tempest. And Tempest to me, I believe, was a representation of my feelings at the time, which I think a lot of my collections are, or feelings that I'm feeling, or situations, something that I'm going through. And Tempest was just that. A reflection of whatever was going on at the time that was making me feel, I don't know, like a disaster. It really did kind of feel like a hurricane tornado scenario. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was going. Lost, but not really. A mess, but kind of in a storm. It's just chaos, I guess. And my evolution through it. I feel like I thrive most in it, but it's still a struggle. The piece that was sketched out wasn't exactly what we ended up with, and I think that's always the case, and that's my creative process, and that's really where my love of everything shows through, is the development of it. Everything we do in this studio is from start to finish. Every design is done in-house. We sketch everything, we pattern everything, we drape it. And the original sketch was a corset that was supposed to represent almost like a shipwreck, and the corset was going to be made out of wood, and so was the skirt, and it was this wrap corset, and it was really beautiful. But as we began to cut this piece and fit it, things started morphing, they sculpted, it turned into a whole different other piece. I think really in the test fit is when things start to come to life. It's when I decide if I love it. Am I going to change it? Point up here. I'm going to draw a note for you, like just draw a little diagonal right here. Okay. What needs to happen with it? So there. Okay. Got it. And this piece, it I don't know, it started to feel a bit more romantic, and as we're test fitting this piece, it begins to change. It then becomes tighter. We decide to put it in a different fabric. All of a sudden, it's not just a corset, it has layers underneath it. Maybe I wanted pants with it.
Pants?
With pants. Like, we'll put this over pants.
Oh.
Now it's changed into a skirt.
And like kind of came off of the body with something underneath it because it's clear.
Or not. It really did start off as a wooden corset and quickly became this beautiful leather wrap corset with a beautiful asymmetrical wrap skirt. Each pattern piece, there's about, I don't know, probably 32 some odd pattern pieces in this leather wrap corset. And each piece stacks perfectly one on top of the next, lengthening just a little bit, keeping in mind that they're going to overlap, keeping in mind that it's going to be leather, keeping in mind that it's going to be wrapped in silk. In this whole entire process, you don't know how it's going to go, you don't know what it's going to look like when you stitch it together. It's not really exactly how it ends up turning out to be. You hope that you can get it as close as possible in the time frame that you are actually in. You know, test fitting it in muslin is not the same as when you sew it in leather. But this piece turned out really beautiful, and when it was corseted on, it felt really beautiful and it felt really powerful, which I think is something that I convey in my pieces. Strength, sex appeal, while still being soft. You have the leather, which is the hard, but it's still soft in its drape, and you have the tulle skirt in its fullness underneath it. It's very soft and romantic, which us as women encompass all of those different things. And this piece really celebrates that for me. It really is a collaborative process that happens in the studio. It's not just me, it's not my be-all, end-all design process. I really feed off of all the different women that work for me and take part in this. Once we decided what to do with the piece and what it was going to be cut out of and how it was going to be shaped and what was going to go underneath it, life started being breathed into the piece. We cut it, the lining was cut, it started being pieced together, we sewed it. Late nights turned into early mornings that turned into tired days. But I think that you feel that when you see this piece walk down the runway. And everybody really needs to tell a story somehow. Maybe it's in the way that you wear your hair, or maybe it's in the clothes that you wear, or the music that you listen to, and the garments that I put down that runway, the pieces that I put on my website, the art that I create is really my story. And it's not just, the whole entire collection is the story. There's stories within the stories, and this was just one of them. And I think that this very statuesque, long, black, sheer, soft and hard, romantic piece was a reflection of what I was going through at the time and often what I struggle with. And being a mom and a woman and a creative, a businesswoman, a daughter, you have to be all of these different things. And for some reason, what's expected the most out of women is to be soft. And I really hate the idea that women should be these soft, subtle, gentle, light-hearted beings. Not that I perceive that as weak, but I don't look at it as it being strong. And I don't want my work to represent that version of women, so instead I like to paint a different vision. That's where these pieces come to life. And it's really interesting how it goes from one design to the next, but at the same time everything is happening all at once, which really hit home for me with Tempest. I mean, I really feel like that's what it stands for, and that's what it stood for, and that's what was happening. I guess it gave birth to the healing process that happened, and that's what I do as a creative. Tempest then turned into Sirens. This was a collection from last September that was shown at New York Fashion Week. We created it in less than 2 months. We have one day before we leave to New York, and the collection's almost done. And this is what hard work, really late, looks like. And because this collection was done in a month and a half, everything is done last minute. And you would never think so when this piece went down the runway. At the end of this collection, after everything was created, this was my favorite piece. This is what we started with. I didn't intend it to be this piece. I didn't intend it to be this collection, but it changed and it morphed and it survived. And that's what we do as women. We change and we morph and we survive.